Everyone, welcome to my channel Guide in Hand. It's my first video on YouTube and I thought that my first video should be based on the topic during which I got my first epiphany on starting my YouTube channel. So let's get started with the first video of this channel. The topic of the first video is History of Pandemics and Epidemics. From the age of human existence, human beings have suffered from various diseases, pandemics and epidemics. These pandemics and epidemics changed the course of history time to time. Many medicines, modern developments in health sector came into existence because of these epidemics and pandemics. Let us first understand the basic difference between a pandemic and an epidemic. According to Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic is that epidemic is a sudden outbreak of a disease in a certain geographical area, while pandemic is an outbreak of a disease that has spread across several countries and continents. Let's take a journey through the various pandemics and epidemics that has occurred over the due course of history. The first recorded pandemic was the plague of Athens. It occurred in 430 BCE during the Peloponnesian War. Is one of the earliest recorded pandemics in history. It is believed to have been caused by typhoid fever or smallpox. This epidemic struck the city of Athens, resulting in devastating consequences. Pericles, the influential Athenian statesman, also fall victim to this disease. Succumbing to its effects, around 75,000 to 1 lakh people were killed by the plague, that is 25% population of the city. Second recorded pandemic was Antonine Plague, also known as the Plague of Galen, struck the Roman Empire around 165 to 180 Common Era. The disease is believed to have been either smallpox or measles. It was brought back to Rome by soldiers returning from campaigns in the Near East. This pandemic is estimated to have killed millions and millions of Romanian soldiers and Roman population, including Emperor Marcus Aurelius was also killed by this pandemic. The third recorded pandemic was Cyprian plague, named after Christian bishop Cyprian, who described its effects ravaged the Roman Empire around 249 to 262 Common Era. Its exact cause is uncertain, but it is believed to have been either a viral hemorrhagic fever or a smallpox-like disease. This pandemic caused widespread fear of death and it continued to reappear over the next century, causing significant mortality and social upheaval during the turbulent 3rd century. Approximately 10 to 20% of population was affected by this epidemic. The fourth recorded pandemic was Justinian plague, also known as the first pandemic, occurred between 541-542 Common Era. The previous plagues were epidemics or plagues, but they were not referred to as pandemics. But this one is referred to as the first pandemics that has occurred over the due course of time. It was caused by Yersinia pestis bacterium, the same microorganism responsible for the later Black Death. The pandemic originated in Egypt and quickly spread throughout the Byzantine Empire, Europe, and Mediterranean, resulting in an estimated 25 to 50 million deaths. The Justinian plague was a catastrophic pandemic that struck the Byzantine Empire and surrounding regions, causing immense suffering and reshaping the course of history. The fifth recorded plague was 11th century leprosy. Leprosy between the 11th and 13th century. Leprosy spread along trade routes in Europe and places occupied by European crusaders and pilgrims in the Holy Land. Infected individuals were also isolated in deserts or leprous area, while others were ostracized and condemned to wander the roads, wearing signs and ringing bells to warn healthy people. Leprosy was considered a form of divine punishment, and its victims were treated as if they were already dead. Leprosy, also known as the living death, led to segregation and stigmatization of its victims during the medieval period, with social and religious implications for those affected. The next recorded plague was the infamous the Black Death, a bubonic plague pandemic occurred in Europe and North Africa from 1346 to 1353. It is the most fatal pandemic in recorded history, causing the deaths of 75 to 200 million people. The disease was caused by bacterium Yersinia pestis, which was previously referred to the leprosy. spread by fleas and possibly person to person as pneumonic plague. The Black Death caused religious, social, and economic upheavals with profound effects on European history. The Black Death was a catastrophic pandemic that drastically reduced the global population and had lasting economic and socio-economic consequences shaping the course of Europe's history. Approximately 75 to 200 million people died during this pandemic. The seventh recorded pandemic was the Columbian Exchange. In 1492, Christopher Columbus' voyages led to the Columbian Exchange, a global interchange of germs, animals, plants, peoples, and cultures between the eastern and western hemisphere. It had both positive and negative impacts, including the introduction of new crops and diseases, which was significantly affected indigenous population. The Columbian Exchange was a transformative event that facilitated the exchange of goods and ideas between the old and new worlds, impacting cultures and populations worldwide. The next pandemic was the Great Plague of London, lasting from 1665 to 1666, was the last major bubonic plague pandemic in England. It caused an estimated 1 lakh deaths, nearly a quarter of London population within 18 months. The disease was spread by the Yersinia pestis bacterium, usually transmitted through fleas or louse bites. This, uh, this bacterium was also responsible for the Black Death, which we discussed earlier. The Great Plague of London was a significant epidemic that struck England in the 17th century, leading to a substantial loss of life and societal disruption. The next pandemic was the Third Plague pandemic, starting in Yunnan, China. In 1855, was caused by the Yersinia pestis bacterium. It spread worldwide, resulting in millions of deaths, with India being significantly affected. The pandemic persisted until the mid-20th century, continuing at a lower level afterward. The Third Plague pandemic was a devastating global outbreak, causing millions of deaths and lasting for nearly a century, with a significant impact on affected regions. The next recorded pandemic was 1875 Fiji measles pandemic. Fiji measles pandemic struck Fiji, leading to a quarter to a third of the Fijian population succumbing to the disease. It left the survivors weak and vulnerable, impacting the socio-economic and political landscape. The Fiji measles pandemic of 1875 was a catastrophic event that significantly reduced the Fijian population, leading to long-term consequences for the country. The 11th recorded plague was the Russian flu. The Russian flu pandemic ranged from 1889 to 1894, believed to have been caused by myxovirus influenza. This pandemic marked the first known outbreak of true Asian cholera, impacting various regions globally. The Russian flu pandemic was a significant outbreak that raised questions about the nature of the virus and the potential impact on global health. The 12th recorded plague was the infamous Spanish flu. The 1918 flu pandemic caused by H1N1 influenza, a virus, was one of the deadliest pandemics in history. It affected approximately one-third of the global population and resulted in an estimated of 17 to 100 million deaths. The Spanish flu pandemic was a devastating global outbreak that overwhelmed healthcare system and left a lasting impact on societies worldwide. The next recorded pandemic was the Asian flu. The Asian flu emerged in 1957 as a global outbreak of influenza A H2N2 virus. It originated in the East Asia and rapidly spread worldwide, causing an estimated 1 to 2 million deaths. The Asian flu pandemic was a significant health crisis that led to widespread illness and mortality across different continents. In this slide, now we will discuss the 14 and 15 pandemic that has occurred in this due course of history. HIV/AIDS. The emergence of human immunodeficiency virus and the subsequent acquired immunodeficiency syndrome in 1981 marked a significant turning point in global death. The disease primarily affected the immune system, leaving individuals vulnerable to opportunities, infections, and certain cancers. HIV/AIDS was a devastating pandemic that spurred a global health response and emphasized the importance of medical research and community support. Next pandemic, SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome (SARS) outbreak in 2003, caused global concern due to its rapid spread and severe respiratory symptoms. SARS was caused by the SARS coronavirus, and containment efforts were implemented to limit its transmission. The SARS outbreak highlighted the need for international cooperation in research into coronaviruses. The 16th and the most recent pandemic that has occurred in the due course of history was COVID-19, or else referred to as coronavirus. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 has affected millions of lives worldwide since its emergence in late 2019. Efforts to combat the virus continue with vaccination campaigns and ongoing research to better understand and control the disease. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought unprecedented challenges to global health, leading to widespread public health measures, economic difficulties, and disruption to daily life. Approximately 6.9 people died cause of this pandemic. On May 2003, WHO declared that this vicious pandemic has come to an end. At last, I would like to conclude with that as we reflect on these historical pandemics, it has become evident that infectious diseases have profoundly shaped human history. They have challenged societies, prompted medical advancements, and revealed the importance of global cooperation in combating public health threats. While each pandemic presented unique challenges, they have collectively contributed to shaping the world we live in today. As we navigate the current and future health challenges, let us learn from the past and strive for a healthier and more resilient global community. I hope that you have liked my slides, and I promise that in the near future I will try to improve my video quality and video presentation. Please support my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Thank you everyone.